Throughout the ages, the tradition of water control has been accompanied by Chinese civilization, and countless people with lofty ideals have made their own contributions. Mao Zedong, who is familiar with Chinese history and good at using history as a mirror, is well aware of the significance of water control in national construction, attaches great importance to water conservancy work, and has achieved a series of important achievements that have attracted worldwide attention. From June to July of 1950, the Huaihe River Basin suffered continuous heavy rains, and the middle and upper reaches of the Huaihe River Basin flooded one after another, flooding 31 million mu of farmland. When Mao Zedong read the telegram from the East China Bureau, he shed tears sadly. On the night of August 5th, the instructions to Zhou Enlai said, "Please ask the Ministry of Water Resources to make a plan for guiding the Huaihe River within a limited time, and send it to me for reading. Early survey, early planning, and early start of work." When the war to resist U.S. aggression and aid Korea was intensified, Mao Zedong personally instructed to transfer two field divisions that were originally going to fight U.S. aggression and aid Korea collectively, and reorganized them into the 1st Water Conservancy Division and the 2nd Water Conservancy Division. He went to the front line of Huaihe River and was directly responsible for the construction of Foseling Reservoir and Boshan Reservoir. He wrote an inscription, "We must repair the Huaihe River." Under Mao Zedong's personal care and guidance, the Northern Sub-A Irrigation Canal, 168 kilometers long, and the Shimanhua Reservoir, capable of storing 47 million cubic meters of flood water, were built in 1951. In 1952, the Baisha Reservoir and Bangkiao Reservoir were built. Anhui Province focused on building the Huaibei Levee, and implemented embankment construction projects for the mainstream and main tributaries of the Huaihe River. In 1954, the Huaihe River suffered another catastrophic flood. These water conservancy facilities played a role and no flood occurred. By the 1960s, the Huaihe River Harness Project achieved decisive success, and 10 large reservoirs such as Foseling and Maishan and hundreds of small reservoirs were built. The Huaihe River, which has been plagued by many disasters in history, has never had a major flood. From 602 BC to 1938, there were 1,593 well-documented breaches in the lower reaches of the Yellow River, and 26 major diversions. Harnessing the Yellow River has been the common expectation of the Chinese nation for thousands of years. The great era of truly governing the Yellow River began in New China. In October 1952, Mao Zedong went to Zhengzhou, Langkao, Kaifeng, Xinxiang and other places to inspect the Yellow River. At the end of the same year, the Yellow River Diversion Irrigation Area of the People's Shingli Canal was built in Xinxiang, Henan Province, with a total of 4,945 kilometers of canals built, which can irrigate 720,000 mu of farmland. Mao Zedong made a special trip to inspect the head gate of the Yellow River Irrigation and Sanitation Project, and personally shook the handle to open a gate. Chairman Mao personally planned and inspected the management of the Yellow River, and carried out a series of water conservancy construction projects, starting from Liujiaxia and Qingtangxia, passing through Wanjiazai, Sanmengxia, Xilangdi, and finally reaching the People's Victory Canal, Dongping Lake Reservoir and Embankment, etc. The construction of water conservancy facilities on the mainstream of the Yellow River not only eradicated floods and provided an important guarantee for the development of coastal agriculture, but also developed hydropower resources, improved the ecological environment, and played a very important role in promoting the economic, social, and cultural development of the Yellow River Basin. Effect. The Sanmengxia closure project began in 1953 and was successfully closed in 1958. It has become the backbone of the Yellow River Flood Control Project and the comprehensive development of the Yellow River. It can irrigate 40 million mu of farmland and generate significant benefits. The history of the Yellow River's 2 breaches in 3 years has ended. Mao Zedong personally wrote an inscription, "For the benefit of the general people, strive for the victory of the Xinjiang Flood Diversion Project." Before the flood season in 1952, with the hard work of 300,000 soldiers and civilians, the first battle to control the Yangtze River was launched. In just 75 days, the main project of the first phase of Xinjiang flood diversion was completed, which withstood the test of the catastrophic flood in 1954. In 1958, the Danjiangkou project started. The dam was nearly 2.5 kilometers long, 162 meters high, and had a maximum water storage capacity of 20.9 billion cubic meters. The two Yindan irrigation canals divert 900 million cubic meters of water annually, irrigate more than 3.6 million mu of cultivated land all year round, and generate an average of 400,000 kilowatt-hour of electricity per year. Mao Zedong paid great attention to this project and has been paying close attention to the design, construction, and future development prospects. When choosing the site for Danjiangkou, Mao Zedong not only considered flood control in the middle reaches of the Yangtze River, but also connected it with the future south to north water diversion route. For the construction of the Three Gorges, which is related to the Millennium Plan of the Chinese nation, Mao Zedong was both active and cautious. After the catastrophic flood occurred in the entire Yangtze River basin in 1954, Mao Zedong returned to Beijing from Wuhan. He listened to the report of Lin Yixin, director of the Yangtze River Water Conservancy Commission on the train, and asked in detail many important issues in the planning and design of the Three Gorges project. From 1953 to 1958, during the brewing process of the construction of the Three Gorges, Mao Zedong summoned Lin Yixin 6 times to learn about various details. Mao Zedong put forward the policy of active, prudent, fully reliable for the construction of the Three Gorges. During the meeting in Nanning, Mao Zedong specially asked Lin Yixin to wait for the meeting to listen to their different opinions. In March 1966, when the Three Gorges project was a foregone conclusion, Mao Zedong still always emphasized that it is necessary to fully listen to, analyze, and absorb different opinions in decision-making, so as to avoid one-sidedness and decision-making mistakes. Mao Zedong regarded water conservancy construction as a major event for all the people, and emphasized the need to rely on and mobilize the masses. In addition to the Huihe River, Yellow River, and Yangtze River, the Huihe River, Liahe River, Songhua River, and Pearl River have also been comprehensively improved, especially water conservancy construction across the country is in full swing. Before the founding of New China, there were only 23 large and medium-sized reservoirs in our country. From 1949 to 1976, more than 85,000 large, medium, and small reservoirs were built across the country, and more than 5,000 irrigation areas of more than 10,000 mu were built, with an irrigated area of 800 million mu. In 1958, Mao Zedong led the representatives participating in the Central Work Conference and the staff of the central and state agencies to work voluntarily at the Mingtums Reservoir. During this period, Beijing also built Huirou Reservoir and Mayun Reservoir, which received Mao Zedong's kind care. Mayun Reservoir has a total water storage capacity of 4.375 billion cubic meters, and Huirou Reservoir has a total storage capacity of 144 million cubic meters, becoming the source of life for Beijing. During the mass construction of water conservancy projects that began in 1958, the Hunky Canal was regarded as a miracle of human conquest of nature. It was conceived in 1958, started in 1960, and completed in 1969. The people of Linxian County, Henan Province dug a river course in the cliffs, dangerous shoals, and canyons of the majestic Taihang Mountains, flattened 1,250 hilltops, cut off 264 cliffs, dug through 211 tunnels, erected 152 waterways, and used 22.29 million cubic meters of earth and stone rice. The whole canal is composed of the main canal, 3 main canals and hundreds of branch canals. The main canal is 70.6 kilometers long. With the branch canals, the total length is 1,500 kilometers, and the irrigation area has expanded by 600,000 mu. Since then, the history of water shortage in Lin County has ended. In the Huihe River Management Project, 4,300 kilometers of flood control embankments were built, and more than 80 large and small reservoirs were built, with a total storage capacity of more than 13 billion cubic meters, which increased the flood discharge capacity of the Huihe River by more than 10 times. The Pishihang Water Conservancy project spanning the 2 provinces of Anhui and Henan was first built in 1958 and completed in 1970. It is a large-scale water conservancy project focusing on flood control and irrigation, integrating power generation, shipping and aquaculture. It has irrigated more than 9 million mu of land in more than 10 counties in northwestern Anhui, which has become a great feat worthy of the same reputation as Zhejiangjian. Opening up the time and space of history, the people will rediscover Mao Zedong's great contribution to the Chinese nation and Chinese civilization. The biggest problem faced by agriculture in the early days of the founding of the People's Republic of China was the raging river floods. Thousands of rivers, large and small, have many floods every year. River banks burst, floods submerge and destroy farmland, village houses collapse, people are displaced, and even their families are destroyed. The second is drought. The vast areas in the north lack rainwater, and the land cannot be irrigated. When the drought is severe, there is even no harvest. In normal years, the yield per mu is only 200 or 300 caddies. At that time, agriculture was completely dependent on the sky and at the mercy of nature. Therefore, controlling river floods has become the biggest livelihood issue that the Communist Party and the People's Government urgently need to solve. At the beginning of the founding of the People's Republic of China, the most important meetings held by the central government were water conservancy work meetings. Several national meetings were held every year to study and solve the problem of water control. From June to July of 1950, another flood occurred in the Huihe River Basin, and the middle and upper reaches of the river flooded successively. 20 counties in Huihe, 7 counties along the coast of Huainan, and some counties in eastern Henan were flooded. Villages in vast areas were inundated. Due to the ferocious water, the masses had no time to escape, or climbed the trees, fell into the water and died, or were bitten to death by poisonous snakes on the trees. Some died due to small waves and capsized boats, totaling about 489 people. The disaster-affected area in Henan and Anhui provinces was more than 40 million mu, with a total of more than 13 million people affected. When Mao Zedong saw the disaster report, a heavy expression appeared on his face, and he shed tears sadly. In the face of flood disasters, Mao Zedong ordered to vigorously organize manpower and material resources to prevent and rescue. At the same time, he made up his mind to put the eradication of flood disasters on the country's important agenda. He has made important instructions many times around the work of governing the Huihe River. According to Mao Zedong's instructions, the National Conference on Huihe River Management was held in Beijing at the end of August. Under the chairmanship of Premier Zhou Enlai, the meeting repeatedly discussed the water conditions of the Huihe River, the policies, plans, and projects to be done for Huihe River management. Afterwards, opinions from various places were gathered to revise and enrich the Huihe River governance plan, and experts were organized to conduct repeated demonstrations. The Government Administration Council issued the decision on harnessing the Huihe River. In accordance with Mao Zedong's policy of consolidating storage and drainage to achieve radical cure, the main projects at that time were reinforcement and construction of embankments, dredging of flood discharge channels, and construction of reservoirs and dams to enhance flood storage and irrigation capabilities. In November of that year, the Huihe River Governance Committee was established. Then, hundreds of thousands of migrant workers from Jiangsu, Henan, and Anhui successively went to the Huihe River construction sites. This is how the Huihe project began. The vast number of farmers who have just undergone land reform and turned themselves over to obtain land, just like supporting the Huihe campaign back then, are now bravely rushing to the construction site of Huihe. The red flags on both sides of the Huihe River were fluttering, the sound of ramming was constant, and the scene was in full swing. Migrant workers used the simplest tools, milling, shovels, baskets, wheelbarrows, and rams, all relying on shoulders and hands to fight on various construction sites. With the Huihe River Control Project as a symbol, New China began a massive people's war to declare war on nature, control river floods, and build water conservancy projects. Controlling floods in rivers has been the #1 problem in human history for thousands of years. Although there have been individual heroic deeds in history, such as Dao's flood control and Li Bing's construction of Dujiangjian, no one has ever cured the entire flood. Why did Mao Zedong choose this major problem first when New China was just established, and he couldn't wait to shoulder the important task of eradicating floods on his shoulders? Especially at that time, the Korean War and the war in the Taiwan Strait were tense, and the domestic material conditions were very lacking, and everything was waiting to be done. It can be said that the situation is one of external troubles and internal troubles. But in that difficult situation, Mao Zedong and the Communist Party dared to declare war on nature again. What kind of boldness, what kind of self-confidence is this? If it is not a political party that truly serves the people and does not seek personal gain, if it does not really care about the people, is it possible to fully trust and rely on the beliefs of the people? If you think about letting a few people get rich first, or have the vulgar concept of nothing can be done without money, can you mobilize that kind of people? Is it an act of fighting against heaven and earth? The great cause of water control in New China is a persistent, ambitious, and arduous systematic project. Looking back on the nearly 30 years of struggle, we have generally gone through 3 stages. 1. Water control projects in the early days of the founding of the People's Republic of China. During this period, the central task was to control the Huihe River to solve the most prominent problem of river flooding at that time. In May 1951, Mao Zedong wrote an inscription, the Huihe River must be repaired. It greatly promoted the Water Conservancy construction at that time. Due to the large number of tributaries of the Huihe River, the distribution area is wide, the project volume is large, involving Henan, Anhui, Jiangsu, and Shandong provinces, and the material and construction conditions were backward at that time, so the difficulty and arduousness of the task of harnessing the Huihe River was unimaginable. However, under the correct leadership and organizational deployment of the parties and governments at all levels, with concerted efforts and strong support from all parties, the broad masses of the people fought bravely and bravely. Finally, all difficulties were overcome and the whole project progressed smoothly. In the spring and winter of 1951, the North Sub-A Canal renovation project and the Sub-A irrigation main canal were completed successively. A 168-kilometer-long main irrigation canal in northern Jiangsu has been built. In July, the Shimenwei Reservoir in the upper reaches of the Huihe River was completed, which is the first reservoir completed in the upper reaches of the Huihe River. It can store 47 million cubic meters of flood water and irrigate 90,000 mu of farmland. In November, the Jialiangjian intake sluice and the Huayan's Haidong diversion sluice started construction. In 1952, the construction of Baisha Reservoir in the upper reaches of Yinghe River and Bangqiao Reservoir in the upper reaches of Ruo River, a tributary of the Huihe River, started. As winter comes and summer comes, Huai River control projects come one after another. In 1953, Xinyihe Zhongshanqiling, Sub-A Dei reorganization, Huayan Yangmiao Chuanyun, Sanhe Gate, Liaolaojian Control Gate, etc. started or completed one after another. Anhui Province focused on building the Huibei levee, and implemented embankment construction on the mainstream and main tributaries of the Huihe River. A culvert flood control and drainage project was built on the Huibei embankment below Zhenjiangwan. Important tributaries such as the Zifei River and Sui River were dredged. The water system adjustment and source interception and diversion projects of the Zifei River, Ci River, and Baifei River and other tributaries were completed. The Foseling Reservoir was completed in 1954. The reservoir can store 500 million cubic meters of flood water, irrigate more than 700,000 mu of farmland, and reduce the threat of floods in the Huihe River. In 1954, another catastrophic flood occurred on the Huihe River. However, due to the function of these water conservancy facilities, the flood water poured into the Yellow Sea in the east and the Yangtze River in the south, and discharged smoothly without flooding. In 1956, the Maishan Reservoir Dam in the upper reaches of the Shi River in the middle reaches of the Huihe River was completed. The total length of the dam is 558 meters, the dam is 84 meters high, which greatly enhances the water storage capacity of the reservoir. In addition, water control work is also in full swing across the country. In 1950, the Jiyun River Irrigation Project, one of the 4 major irrigation projects in Bohai District, Hebei Province, was started. The Hanshui River Treatment Project, one of the largest tributaries of the Yangtze River, was started, and the Datong Lake Flood Storage and Reclamation Project in Hunan was started. After the project is completed, it can store 2.2 billion cubic meters of flood water, which will greatly reduce the floods in the middle and lower reaches of the Yangtze River and along the Dongting Lake. In 1951, the Duliu River Reduction Project in Hebei Province started and was completed in 1953. The project includes the excavation of Duliajian River and the diversion of the South Canal. The completion of this project has completely relieved the flood threat of Tianjin City and Jinpu Railway. In October 1952, Mao Zedong inspected the Yellow River and issued a call to do the work of the Yellow River well. Since then, the project to cure the Yellow River has been put on the agenda. In 1953, the project of diverting the Yellow River to save the Wei River, in Henan Province was completed. A total of 4,945 kilometers of canals were built to irrigate 720,000 mu of farmland. The first and largest flood control project on the mainstream of the Yangtze River, the Jingjiang Flood Diversion Project, was started in 1952 and completed in 1953. The project includes the construction of the embankment of Huangtian Lake, the construction of the flood inlet gate, Taipingkao, and the control gate, Huangshantu, the reinforcement of embankments, and the arrangement of channels in the flood diversion area. The total area of the flood diversion area is 921 square kilometers, and the circumference of the dike is 208 kilometers. The water storage capacity of the district can reach 5.4 billion cubic meters. In 1954, China's first large-scale valley reservoir, the Yongding River Guanting Reservoir in the suburbs of Beijing, was completed. The project was started in 1951. After completion, it stored more than 2.2 billion cubic meters of flood water, which greatly reduced the threat of flooding. In the summer of 1954, due to the concentrated rainfall in the middle and lower reaches of the Yangtze River and Huihe River, both exceeded the highest water level in history, and Wuhan, a large city on the banks of the Yangtze River, was in a state of emergency. However, due to the effectiveness of the flood control projects over the past few years, as well as the hard work of the local party, government, and people to fight the floods did not cause any damage and the safety of Wuhan was ensured. Afterwards, Mao Zedong wrote an inscription, "Congratulations to the people of Wuhan for overcoming the flood in 1954. In July 1955, the State Council meeting passed the report on the comprehensive planning of water disasters of the Yellow River and the development of the Yellow River. In March 1956, Xinhua News Agency reported that the National 5-Year Plan for the construction of farmland water conservancy projects was ahead of schedule and overfulfilled. After 5 years of hard work, not only the floods were greatly reduced, but also the irrigated area of farmland was expanded to 8 million hectares, which was 4.8 million hectares higher than the original plan. The hectares are about 40% overrun. This marks a phased victory in water control work. The Huihe project continued until the early 1960s. Since 1958, the Huihe River project from Hungs Lake to Xinyi River has been built. The river is 100 kilometers long and 1.04 kilometers wide, and control projects such as the Erhe Gate, Huiying Gate, and Zhiyang Gate have been built to divert water across the two basins of the Huihe River and the Yishe River, achieving the goal of dividing Huihe River into Huihe North diversion and mutual aid between Huihe River and Yishe River. The comprehensive management goal has enhanced the ability to dispatch and discharge floods. By the 1960s, 10 large reservoirs such as Foseling and Meishan, a large number of medium-sized reservoirs such as Guanggu and Xiangshui Dam, and hundreds of small reservoirs had been built, Chinsi Lake, Chendong Lake, Menghui, and Wa. There are 4 flood storage projects in Bohu Lake, 18 flood discharge areas have been developed along the Huihe River. The construction of the world-famous Pishi Hangzhou Communication Comprehensive Utilization Project and new irrigation areas has also started. So far, the planned goal of the Huihe River Harnessing Project has been basically completed, and a flood control engineering system for the middle reaches of the main stream has been preliminarily formed. The people on both sides of the Huihe River have suffered many disasters in history. Although there have been many major floods from the beginning of the founding of the People's Republic of China to the end of the 1970s, no major floods have occurred. 2 Water Conservancy construction in the 1960s and 1970s. The Great Leap Forward movement that started in the second half of 1958 was essentially a production and construction movement aimed at accelerating economic development. It reflects that after the completion of the task of socialist transformation in the ownership of the means of production, there is an urgent need for a great upsurge in the development of production and construction. After the 3 major reforms movement, although the production relations have undergone fundamental changes, they are still historical, backward and poor in terms of productivity and material basis. Agricultural production basically still relies on manpower and animal power. The ability to resist natural disasters and risks is weak. Floods, droughts, and pests frequently occur, and agricultural output is low and unstable. It is conceivable that under the international situation at that time, the demand for economic production to do big and quickly and accelerate development was much more urgent than it is now. From the perspective of agriculture, the Great Leap Forward started with the implementation of the 40 points of the National Agricultural Development Program formulated by the Party Central Committee in 1957. The outline of agricultural development clearly stated that within 12 years, the grain yield per mu should reach the goals of 4, 5, and 8, namely, 400 jin to the north of the Yellow River, 500 jin to the south of the Yellow River and north of the Huihe River, and 800 jin to the south of the Huihe River. Caddy. At that time, inspired by the outline of agricultural development, a climax of water conservancy construction was first set off in rural areas across the country. Due to the general establishment of rural people's communes in 1958, large-scale water conservancy projects can be planned and deployed in a unified manner, no longer limited by the original county and township divisions. At the same time, the unified deployment of labor and resources, large-scale cooperation, and support from all sides have been greatly enhanced. Capacity, thus further expanding the scale of water conservancy construction. This has greatly promoted the construction of water conservancy in the country. In the history of water conservancy construction in New China, many major water control projects and constructions were carried out during the 3-year Great Leap Forward period. During the Great Leap Forward, there was an upsurge of building reservoirs everywhere. More than half of the reservoirs all over the country were built during the Great Leap Forward. For example, the famous Beijing Mingtombs Reservoir was built in 1958. At that time, Mao Zedong and other central leaders had participated in voluntary labor on the construction site. There are also some other large reservoirs, such as Mayun Reservoir in Beijing, Xiananjiang Reservoir in Zhejiang Province, Tanghe Reservoir in Liaoning Province, Yahakao Reservoir in Henan Province, Xinfanjiang Reservoir in Guangdong Province, and Songtao Reservoir in Hainan Province, all of which were constructed during the Great Leap Forward, or built. These large reservoirs have comprehensive functions such as water storage, flood control, irrigation, drought resistance, breeding, and power generation, and play a major role in the local environment, ecology, and economic development. The large scale and strong intensity of water control is a special evidence of water conservancy construction during the Great Leap Forward. From embankment building and diversion in the past to blocking, damming, and diversion of large rivers, it is magnificent. This is unimaginable in history. These include the management of many major rivers such as the Haihe River, the Yellow River, and the tributaries of the Yangtze River. For example, the closure project of the Haihe River Dam, which was implemented and completed in 1958, cut off 5 inland rivers in North China entering the sea, so that fresh water no longer flows into the sea, and seawater no longer goes up the inland river. The Sanmenxia closure project of the Yellow River began in 1957 and was closed in 1958. Success is the main project for the radical cure and comprehensive development of the Yellow River. After the closure, it can create a storage capacity of 64.7 billion cubic meters. The Yellow River, which has bursted twice in 3 years in history, has never had a flood since then. At the same time, it has comprehensive functions such as flood control, power generation, and irrigation, and can irrigate 40 million mu of farmland. The Danjiangkou Water Conservancy project is the main project for the radical control and comprehensive development of the Han River. In 1958, the first phase of the project was successfully closed, the Yellow River Liujiaxi Water Conservancy project. After the completion of the closure, the dam will form a reservoir with 4.9 billion cubic meters of water, which can irrigate 15 million mu of farmland. The project is a key water conservancy project for comprehensive utilization of power generation, irrigation, and water regulation of the Yellow River. After completion, it can control the flood of the Yellow River in Ningxia, Inner Mongolia, and other regions, and form an irrigation network with an area of 10 million mu in Ningxia. There are countless water conservancy projects all over the country, and they are magnificent. So many large-scale projects have been built in just 3 years, which can be described as outstanding achievements. If it weren't for the Great Leap Forward and the People's Commune period, such a feat would not have been possible. 3. The overall victory of water conservancy construction in the 1960s and 1970s. In the 1960s and 1970s, water conservancy construction, as an important part of the agricultural learning from Dazai movement, was carried out more extensively and deeply. Its main feature is that it has developed from the past emphasis on flood control to the goal of comprehensive development and utilization. It implements Chairman Mao's call that water conservancy is the lifeblood of agriculture and mainly solves the problems of agricultural water use and drought resistance. For this reason, many new river channels have been excavated, and a large number of water conservancy projects have been built, and the scale and investment of water control have been further expanded. The investment in 1975 alone was 4.53 billion yuan. From the founding of the People's Republic of China to 1979, the central government's investment in water conservancy capital construction reached more than 76 billion yuan. According to Wan Li's speech at the meeting of directors of the National Water Conservancy Department in October 1980, by the end of the 1970s, the control of the water regime of rivers and lakes had been generally realized. Not only has the major flood disaster been basically eliminated, but also the remarkable effect of comprehensive utilization such as irrigation and power generation has been achieved. Some large water conservancy projects during this period, such as the Red Flag Canal in Linxian County, Henan Province, which shocked China and the world, is known as the man-made Tianhe. The construction of the canal started in 1960 and was completed in 1969. Under the difficult conditions at that time, the people of Lin County insisted on digging a river channel in the cliffs, dangerous shoals, and canyons of the towering Taihang Mountains. During the construction process, a total of 1,250 hills were leveled, more than 50 cliffs were excavated, 264 cliffs were cut off, 211 tunnels were dug, 274 ditches were crossed, 152 aqueducts were erected, and a total of 22.29 million cubic meters of earth and stone were used. It has created a miracle in the history of water conservancy construction. The whole canal consists of the main canal, 3 main canals, and hundreds of branch canals. The main canal is 70.6 kilometers long, and the water diversion volume is 20 cubic meters per second. The branch canal supporting project will build a masonry canal of 595 meters, with a total length of about 1,500 kilometers. After completion, the irrigated area has expanded by 600,000 mu. It has greatly alleviated the local agricultural drought and water shortage problem. The Hanbei River in Hubei province is also an artificial river. It was completed in 1970 with a total length of more than 110 kilometers. After completion, the irrigated area was expanded by 100 more than 10,000 mu, and so on. Completed in 1969, the Jiangdu Water Conservancy project consists of more than a dozen projects including 3 large pumping stations, 5 medium-sized water control sluices, 3 ship locks and dredging channels. It connects the Yangtze River, Huainan, the Grand Canal and the Lixia River. Using the different water levels of these rivers, through the combination of artesian and motorized water diversion for flood drainage and drought resistance, more than 2.5 million mu of farmland can be irrigated. In the Liahe River Treatment Project completed in 1972, a total of 220 reservoirs were built in the upstream and tributaries, a total of 4,500 kilometers of dikes were built, and 920 electric drainage and irrigation stations were built in the river basin, which can irrigate more than 11 million mu of farmland. The Liahe River Treatment Project completed in 1973 took more than 10 years to build more than 4,300 kilometers of flood control embankments, control, and dredge more than 270 river channels, and build more than 60,000 culverts, bridges, and gates. Build more than 80 large and medium-sized reservoirs, with a total storage capacity of more than 13 billion cubic meters. Among them, there are 18 large-scale reservoirs including Yueshan, Gangnan, Huangbizhuang, and Mayuan, and more than 60 medium-sized reservoirs. More than 20 flood detention areas have been built. The flood, drought, waterlogging, alkali and other disasters have been comprehensively controlled, and the flood discharge capacity of the Liahe River has increased by more than 10 times compared with the history. 1 mu of irrigated land per person has been realized in the basin. The total grain output in 1973 was higher than that in 1963. Year doubled. The Liahe River is completely governed. The Pishihang Water Conservancy project spanning the 2 provinces of Anhui and Henan is a large-scale water conservancy and hydropower hub project focusing on flood control and irrigation, combined with power generation, shipping, and aquaculture. The project was started in 1958 and completed in the early 1970s. A new irrigation area including 5 major reservoirs including Longmankau Reservoir has been built to irrigate cultivated land in 10 counties in northwestern Anhui, and 9 million mu of farmland can be irrigated. Known as a great feat that can be as famous as Dujiangjian, it has benefited the people of Anhui for generations. For the management of the Yellow River, in 1974, the reconstruction project of the Sanmengxia Water Conservancy project on the Yellow River was completed, as well as the construction of Liujiaxia, Yanghuaxia, Qingtangxia and other reservoirs and hydropower stations. At the same time, the treatment of the lower reaches of the Yellow River has been completed, and more than 3,000 kilometers of dikes have been built and reinforced, more than 60 culverts and sluices have been built along the coast, and more than 80 irrigation projects such as water diversion siphons have been built. Expand the irrigated area to more than 8 million mu. As a result, the Yellow River was completely conquered by people, turning water damage into water conservancy. The Danjiangkou large-scale water conservancy project in the Yangtze River Basin was started in 1958 and completed in 1973. The project is a large-scale water conservancy project with comprehensive benefits such as flood control, power generation, irrigation, shipping, and breeding, which is surveyed, designed, and constructed by my country. It consists of 4 parts, a river barrage dam, a hydroelectric power plant, a ship lift, and 2 irrigation canals in Hubei and Henan. The dam is nearly 5 miles long, 162 meters high, and has a maximum water storage capacity of 20.9 billion cubic meters. After completion, the flood control capacity of the Han River will be improved to the level that it can withstand a flood once in 20 years. Historically, the middle and lower reaches of the Han River suffered from frequent floods, and the dikes collapsed twice in 3 years. The so-called Mianyangsu of Shahu Lake, 9 times out of 10 years, has since come to an end. The total installed capacity of the power plant is 900,000 kilowatts, with an average annual power generation of 400,000 kilowatt-hour. The ship lift can lift a barge with a trim weight of 150 tons. The 2 Yindan irrigation canals in Hubei and Henan have an average annual water diversion of 900 million cubic meters, irrigate more than 3.6 million mu of cultivated land, and have a total irrigation benefit of more than 500 million yuan, making northwest Hubei and southwest Henan a commercial grain base. Large-scale reservoir projects such as Baikal, Jiaxi, Fenton, and Shiquan in the Yangtze River Basin were also completed during this period. The Gezhouba Water Conservancy project on the main stream of the Yangtze River began construction in 1970. It was the largest hydropower station in China at that time, with a total installed capacity of 27010,000 kilowatts, and it was coming to an end by the end of the 70s. By this time, the control of the Yangtze River floods had achieved a decisive victory. In the summer and autumn of 1980, the Yangtze River suffered the largest flood in 25 years. However, thanks to the newly built water conservancy projects and the joint efforts of the army and the people to fight the flood, there was no breach in the 1,000-mile embankment, which ensured the safety of the people on both sides of the river. Other large-scale water conservancy projects, such as the large-scale water conservancy project across Henan, Anhui, and Jiangsu provinces in 1970, the project of excavating the Xinbian River and harnessing the Tuohe River was completed. The project of harnessing the middle and lower reaches of the Daking River in Hebei province was completed. 14 counties in Beijing, Quanzhou and other regions were protected from floods, and the safety of Tianjin City and Jinpu Railway was ensured. In 1971, the reconstruction project of the irrigation canal system in Tujianjian, Sichuan province was completed. The Yongding New River and Beijing Sewage River project, one of the Haihe River system projects, were completed. In 1976, the main project of the Hezhihai Irrigation District Water Conservancy project in Inner Mongolia Autonomous Region was completed, which can irrigate 290,000 mu of farmland. In 1979, the closing gate of Panjiaka Reservoir in Hebei province was closed. Started in 1975, the project is second only to the Danjiankao Hydropower Station and Gezhouba project in Hubei. The storage capacity of the reservoir can reach 2.9 billion cubic meters. In 1977, the pumping station of the main drainage channel of the Bayaner Kintao Irrigation District was completed, with an annual drainage of 450 million cubic meters, which can undertake the drainage task of more than 4 million mu of farmland in the irrigation district. In 1978, the main project of Jiangsu Jianbai large-scale electric power pumping station was completed and put into operation, which can irrigate more than 2 million mu of farmland and drain more than 4 million mu of farmland. The above materials are quoted from Chronicle of Events of the People's Republic of China, published by Xinhua Publishing House in 1982, pages 197 to 221. Except for those built during the Great Leap Forward, most of the large, medium, and small reservoirs all over the country were built during the Cultural Revolution in the 1960s and 1970s. Large-scale reservoir projects completed in the 1970s, such as Fujianjiang Shanmei Reservoir was completed in 1972. After completion, it can store 395 million cubic meters of water and irrigate more than 600,000 mu of farmland. In 1976, the Huanglongtan Water Conservancy project in Hubei province was completed, with a reservoir capacity of 1.228 billion cubic meters and an annual power generation of 759 million kilowatt-hour. There are also Weianpai Reservoir and Shuangpai Reservoir in Hunan province. According to statistics, as of 1979, more than 80,000 large, medium, and small reservoirs, with a storage capacity of more than 100,000 cubic meters, had been built all over the country. At the same time, nearly 100 artificial rivers were excavated and built, and more than 5,000 irrigation areas of more than 10,000 mu were newly built. The irrigated area reached 800 million mu, 3 times that of 1949. To a large extent, it solves the problem of agricultural water use. By the end of the 1970s, the new China's water control projects had achieved decisive success, and the planned goals of water conservancy construction had basically been achieved. As a result, rivers and floods have basically formed a pattern of being controlled by people and obeying people's design and manipulation. Not only has the history of floods basically ended, but it has also turned water damage into water conservancy, and basically eliminated the phenomenon of drought in large areas. Reversed thousands of years of history of agriculture relying on the sky. Most of these projects were implemented and completed in the 1960s and 1970s, which lasted more than 10 years. In what period of history has such an arduous and heroic project and such a magnificent achievement occurred? How can it be compared in ancient and modern times? Such a human miracle can only be created in the era of Mao Zedong.